All right, Josh Smith here, live at Flat 5 again. My guest today is truly like a giant hero. It's kind of crazy to me, actually, that I can send him a text message and he responds. I've been listening to him play music most of my entire life. And it was funny, I was doing an interview yesterday, Chris, with a guitar magazine, and they asked me, "Oh, where do you get your feel playing over a shuffle? You have a great feel over a shuffle." And I said, "Well, I probably from the 8 million hours I spent playing along to cassettes of you playing a shuffle as a child. You know,
No,
that's where my time comes from." Anyways, dude, it's an honor to have you. We're just gonna have a little chat about music and life, and please, everybody, welcome Chris Layton.
howdy, howdy. Good to see you, Josh. I,
Likewise, my
I hope
friend.
that was a good for you, Josh. All these years of influence.
Dude, yeah. I mean, you know what's funny is I started playing guitar a little bit before I heard you guys, and so I was already in it deep in the weeds, you know. But it definitely was life changing once I found you guys. So I've been starting all these interviews. I'm most interested with everybody how they kind of get started playing the instrument. The guitar was really random for me. Nobody in my family plays. I don't come from a musical family. Do you come from a musical family? Was there a lot of musicians in your household?
Oddly enough, there was, but I didn't actually know it at the time. Um, 6 years old. It's one of those things where you have that moment of like ignition, I call it, where something gets you excited. And fortunate enough for me, I actually kind of chased that down. I mean, I think this happens all the time for people, but you stop and something occurs in your life and you get like your hair stands up, you get chicken skin, goosebumps, and you go, "Oh, wow, that was cool." And I'll just go on to whatever I was on my way to begin with. And in that case, I just heard something came on the stereo and it did that to me. And I heard the drums and I immediately went out and cut some branches off a tree and started beating on stuff. And it just never ended until I
Wow.
had this motorcycle accident. But so it's from 6 years old. It just never stopped. But um, come to find out, I mean, I'm a drummer. It's what I do. People know me mostly as, but my father actually played drums in the European theater when he was in the war.
Wow.
He had bad vision, so he ended up being was a buck sergeant, but he was a airplane mechanic. But he played in the jazz band in the non-commissioned officers club. But I didn't know any of that until like later. So it wasn't like
Interesting.
I knew that and went, well, I want to play drums like my father. There was none of that. And in fact, I guess maybe a year or two after I had that ignition point I'm talking about. My father took a role as the tenor, lead tenor in the Corpus Christi Tidelanders, which was the barbershop quartet of the city.
Wow.
Because that must have been a pretty big deal, 210,000 population city, and they got a barbershop quartet. My father's singing tenor in it, and I'm going, okay, there's that. So, but
Interesting.
yeah,
And so, okay, so you pull down tree branches and you start playing. Your dad never mentions to you that he plays drums when he sees you have the interest right away?
no,
That's crazy.
no, it's weird. Now, here's the weird part about it was they happened to be these from this poisonous tree, and my mother saw it. She came in screaming and yelling, and and dad and my dad says, "Olga," he goes, "just hang on to me." He goes, "Son, go get rid of those and go wash your hands. You come back here in 2 minutes." I was like, "Oh shit, I'm gonna get spanking or some shit, right?" And so I come and I sit back down, after I've done all that, and he comes in with all these volumes of like what were 78s, these bound volumes of like Harry James, Chick Webb, Lionel Hampton, Duke
Wow.
Ellington, uh, Count Basie, Glenn Miller, and for like hours played me all these 78s. I was like, what is this stuff? It was just mind blowing. But also to that, as he started doing that, he went to that same closet that had been locked, seemed like my whole life, which was only 6 years long. But he came back with these Slingerland things, and they were brushes. And he had the paper down on the ottoman. He was like playing along with this stuff. And I
Wow.
thought, wow, Dad knows how to do that. He's like playing along with Chick Webb, right? And he's playing brushes. And I'm going, he sounds like that guy. He's doing this, he's doing that. And then it was He never said though, oh yeah, I used to be a drummer. He never said that. He just, that was it. That was the evidence. And then my mother actually told me, because he, you know, I don't know why he never said anything about that. It's weird, but
Interesting.
like
So that
quiet
was my next
generation.
question. So they were listening to hip music in your house. You were fortunate on that front.
Well, my mom was a Ray Charles fan.
Yeah.
So otherwise you kind of had the radio and had all that shit like, you know, Glenn, you know, Pat Boone and whatever, Pozo Seiko singer, whoever came on the radio. And then, you know, if you got a hip station or if you had records, and my mother did, she had like Ray Charles. And so when
Right.
my dad brought out the big band stuff, I said, you know, there's a picture, something's happening here that you didn't hear in the Pat Boone shit and the, God, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, then after that, it was like, oh man, this is great.
So when do the first like actual, drumsticks and sitting down behind a kit happen? Is it more something at school, like marching band or something first, or when's the first drums? Yeah.
Yeah, no. Let's see. I think my parents were, I consider them kind of hardcore, but you know what? To be fair, it's like if you're interested in this stuff, you'll stay interested in it, right?
Yeah.
So I got another pair of limbs from another tree and beat around on pots and old coffee cans. It was Folgers had these different coffee cans with a new plastic lid, and I used that for drums and all the. You hear this story; it's not uncommon, but I did that for a while. And then when beginner band came along, I went, well, I want to get into a band, and you know, my parents were like, oh, you want to do that? Well, I guess you need a drum. I go, yeah, I do need a drum. They go, where are you gonna get one of those? You know. So there was not much leading the witness. It's like, well, okay, well, there was always like, you make the first step and we'll follow up behind you if you need some help. I got into band.
That's cool because they were testing you, I guess, to see if you were really going to follow through.
Well, you know, it reminds me of when Tommy and I were launching out on this idea of doing the Double Trouble solo record. Tommy, who was writing songs, he said, man, you ought to learn how to play guitar. I went, I got these ideas, but I can't speak them because I have no vocabulary. And so I called Jimmy Vaughn and I said, hey, you got a guitar I could borrow? He goes, yeah, I got a guitar. He goes, it's an old Harmony. He goes, the strings are about 1.5 inches from the neck. He goes, it's really kind of fucked up and real hard to play. I go, well, why would I want to play a guitar like that? And he said, well, because if you want to play this guitar, it means you really want to play guitar. so it was kind of like, back in the day, it's like, oh, you want to play drums? Well, where are you going to get one? And where are you going to get the money to buy one? And you're like, well, I thought y'all were just going to do all that for me. And they go, no, they help out, but they let you take, I had to lead the charge, and then they helped out when the time was right in their parental viewpoint.
My parents were the same way. I had to complete books, the Mel Bay guitar course, book 1, book 2, before I could get a real guitar. So I was playing with a toy at first, and then when I finished like the first 2 books, then I got a real guitar. And it was I had to put in the effort.
Well, you look like a guy that's had good parenting. You look like a guy's had good parenting. You know, it's like, where's this good parenting? Hey, I think I'd like to be a race car driver. We'll go get you a car tomorrow and give it a go,
Yeah, just get on out there, Yeah. Oh man. So you had music in school, which I think I kind of come at the tail end of when it was just a given that you would have music in school. During, when you were going to school, it was pretty much automatic, right?
Well, there was the option. It was beginner band, and it happened in 6th grade, which was like before intermediate school. I live in a little town by this point north of Corpus Christi, Memphis, Texas. So you could join band in 6th grade. It was like great, So you got, anyway, that's another story with that. But right at that same time, I was listening to popular music. I actually heard Jimi Hendrix. Living in this little town, there wasn't any radio, but I did hear Hey Joe and heard Purple Haze. I went, man, what in the world is this? Because Mitch Mitchell sounded like the guys in big band drummers. Yeah. But I go, but this music is nothing like that stuff on the 78s, right? Mm-hmm. But So a friend of mine's older brother had a set of Ludwig drums, and he stopped playing them, and they were stacked in his closet. I said, "Can I borrow those?" And the guy said, "No, but I'll rent them to you." And he rented them to me for like 50 cents a week. And I got to play him there. Like I didn't take him and leave with him, but I paid him 50 cents to play him at his house.
Wow.
So it was something that I did. I made, it was a little bit entrepreneurial, to kind of like, well, wait a minute, I want to play drums. And there was a guy who lived in, down the road in this little town named George Chopless, who actually had his drum kit set up in the garage. He had like the Bogan PA, and he was playing to popular music and playing drums along with the stereo. I'm going, yeah, I'm into that. Right. So, all these different things that you did to kind of get yourself up and running,
Yeah.
And
was that the first time you actually got to sit down behind a full kit at that guy's house in his garage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
crazy.
Like, wow.
Yeah, I can't imagine, like, guitar, you either have a guitar or not. And you're listening to drums, you see your dad playing brushes on the couch, you're playing with tree limbs, you're playing a drum in band at school, but to actually finally sit behind a kit and do what you it sounds like you knew you already wanted to get there, that must have been an incredible feeling.
Oh no, it's magical because it is. There's pieces to a drum kit.
Yeah.
Like you just said, either playing a guitar or you're kind of not, but the drum kit, like, oh wow, there's a hi-hat and snare and kick drum, and there's this, there's pieces here, and it was a great exploration. It's like a whole new universe than playing a snare drum.
Yeah, exactly. So how quickly did you progress once you got behind the kit?
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, people say, "Oh man, you got a good feel." I mean, once I actually could play anything at all, which was pretty quick, But I'd like tried to jump way ahead. I mean, I was putting on, having a drum kit when I actually got my own drum kit at 14. Right, had my own drum kit, and I'm thinking, you know what? I want to learn how to play "Fire" by Jimi Hendrix. And I go, there really wasn't a fire in me, to do that. Well, maybe I'll do "Hey Joe." I go, well, I need to get some chops together. I had no experience,
Yeah.
but, so you kind of like in that method, you kind of let the song kind of fill in the blanks for you. You kind of pull you along and you jump in where you can. And I don't know how long it was before I actually started playing, stuff like "Can't Get Enough" by Bad Company. I go, yeah, I'm playing this. And,
Nice. When was the first time you played with other musicians playing kit?
15. I was 15, like within the year. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, in that time and in a small town you're at, were there a lot of guys listening to rock and roll and playing guitar and bass and stuff, or was it a pretty small amount of players?
Not, it was a small amount because it was a farming community.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it was the 60s, there was, that was kind of a different element of society. Those that would like be endeavoring in music, as opposed to playing football, baseball, and running track and whatnot.
Right.
It was a very, very small pool, but we knew everybody. And no, I did. There was a guy that another, derelict hooligan hipster like myself who played some guitar, and we put together a little combo with another guy who played some bass. We entered the talent show. We did a "For Your Love."
Oh yeah, really?
We did "For Your Love," and we won the talent show. And you go, this is kind of like encouragement and validation, right? You go, maybe this means something, Maybe we could go somewhere, one or together, separately, or something,
Yeah. Yeah, and those little moments of validation and of course even just the spark of playing with people. It's like once you get those little moments, it's you can't go back after that. It's like that's it. The hook is set,
Well, it wasn't my case, right? Because I just keep and through my whole life, I go each one of those things. It just kept narrowing. Like this seems to be what I'm thinking about more and more. Or mainly to the exclusion of like a bunch of other stuff.
All right. So what did your parents think about that when you started to, narrow in on, okay, maybe this is where you want to go? not just, for fun, but as a life. How'd they feel?
Well, it's funny. I have to say that inadvertently, when I was 9 years old, almost 10, there was a tragedy in my family. My sister died in a car accident. She was the middle child, and really, my parents took it real badly. And within the year, my father was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and had all of a sudden this plethora of health issues. And it almost seemed like it's like we don't really have time to. It seemed like to really get into like, does he want to be a drummer? Should he be a doctor? How can we help guide him? Like, it was just like, you'll figure it out. Whatever it is that needs to be figured out, we all have to figure it out. And I'm just making this story up, but so we really, it was my parents' friends who seemed to notice that I was interested in this drumming thing. Who, as my father was becoming more and more ill, he passed away when I was 19, right after high school. But through high school, they said, we've noticed. They had me over for dinners, and they say, look, we kind of noticed. We see what you're doing in school band, and we're hearing this and hearing some things as I was playing. They go, seems like you're taking this drumming thing a little bit too seriously. Your dad's ill, and your mom's going to need help, and we just want to talk to you about, maybe it's time to put that aside and get serious about life. And I thought, I am serious about living my life. I always felt that way,
Right.
And so it was these were strange conversations to have, because in a way I'd hear them and I go, I can't think about all that other stuff that you're telling me I probably should be thinking about. It just doesn't register.
Right.
Not so much like I'm dedicated. I've known since I was 4 years old I was going to be a professional drummer. I didn't know any of that shit, really. All I know is I kept wanting to do this and I kept wanting to do that and didn't want to do these other things. And so it's like I'd look out there and the whole field looked blurry, except when I thought about playing drums, and then that seemed to be crystal clear.
Yeah.
Not with like, I'm going to do this with it. I'm going to, you have all your little dreams and your stuff, but it's like, so that's kind of what was it more than anything.
Interesting. I mean, I can certainly relate. It was like I wasn't one-sided completely, but nothing else felt right. So much to the point where when I was in high school, I mean, obviously I was gigging already then too as a kid, but I knew, okay, there's no college coming for me. I'm not going to go. I could have gone. I was a good student, and I got actually scholarship offers, but it didn't register like as an option to me because I just wanted to be playing music. So what happened when you got close to finishing high school? I mean, I think I read you went to college some, right?
I did. No, so I got out of high school, and I'm thinking, damn, it's pretty dismal down here in Corpus, the family situation, the life. I'm going, well, I guess I ought to go to college. And we have one here, and they do have a music program. Actually, it was a very good, legit music program. A lot of people who went to the Del Mar 2-year music program, Del Mar College, were tracked right into Juilliard. I'm going, well, I'm not doing that. I know I'm not that guy, but I'll go take some cover over there and take some courses and take some music. But the truth of it is that even when I was in college, I went, you know what? It sounds stupid. I go, I just want to rock. That's what I want to do. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but then sitting in biology class, I'm going, this is fine, but wait a minute, what am I doing? Where am I going? Something's not, something's not clear here. And then my dad died, right? And one day I woke up and something said, you should leave. And Austin was in my head because I'd visited my sister here a few years earlier. I went, what a cool place. And I knew nothing other than some friends of mine had abandoned a house they just paid rent on. And there's a longer story there, but they came back to Corpus. And I turned to a couple of friends of mine and said, let's get a band together and let's go to their house. Let's do it now. And they went, okay, man, let's take off. So the next day, we went, tied up loose ends. I bailed out of my music classes and everything. I told them, I said, do what you want with my grade. I'm moving to Austin. And we just came up here with nothing. A couple $100 in my pocket with nothing. No, we got some gigs, we got jobs, we had nothing figured out other than we're going to this place and we're going to go squat in this house that's got a month free rent on it, and we'll figure it all out after that.
Wow.
So, you know, where was I going with that? Well, that's just, and then I was on to the next thing, and but something said, this feels right. I don't know why it does exactly, but this seems like now I'm heading in some kind of right direction.
So you were 19 then?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I did start school again. It's funny. I was listening to Bill Burr was talking about this the other day about having to go on to 3 different kind of colleges until he just said, yeah, if I can do it, stand up, you know?
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then, you know, a good friend of mine knew a band that was actually auditioning for drummers, and they'd had like their 20th audition. And he said, I gave him your number. Here's their number. Why don't you go audition? And I went, and they said, dude, we want you in our band.
Wow.
19 years old, and everybody else in the band was like 26 to like 40. You know, they go, we want you in our band. I went, okay. And it was like, so I started playing in this band called Greasy Wheels, and it was like a Friday afternoon paycheck, right?
Wow.
And real legitimate shows and all this stuff. And I'm going, well, this is what you call a professional musician.
Yeah.
It's all these questions about, are you going to be a musician? Are you going to go to school, get a degree? Maybe you ought to be a lawyer. I mean, what you have you considered, you know, all that. It was like, you know, I'm here and this is it. And so that was it. It was like, really like, let me conk you on the head life a few times. Go say, are you getting it through your head? You've been thinking about this and doing it since you were like 6.
Yeah.
And you're 19. Maybe it's like, oh, and you're here. You know, here you are.
Well, I'm sure, you know, once you got to Austin, just being around that many like-minded individuals too must have even just spurred you on so much more. I mean, and then, getting paid to play for real for the first time. There is no feeling like that. Like that moment, even when it's, you know, $30 at your first gig, it's a tremendous feeling.
Well, yeah. And really, does anybody need any more evidence to say, look, you're kind of a cool band, you're enjoying it, and you're making a really decent living, that you're a professional musician, or are you not?
Yeah.
You know, whether or not this is like what ends up happening the rest of your life or not is not the real question. It's like, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not going to medical school right now. I'm playing in a band. You know?
Yeah. It's funny. Even now, you know, 2021, I still get asked, I wonder if you still do even, get that question from people you meet who you don't know are strangers, and they ask you, what do you do? And I say, I play guitar. And this, well, what do you do for a living? You know, it's always. Yeah.
I've got a couple of great stories about that. Me and Joe Sublette, who was playing in a band, the Cobras, that I inadvertently sat in with, is how I met Stevie.
Yeah.
Right. We used to live up above and behind this guy who was going to school, who was like the best whistler he and I had ever heard. Wow. This guy was unbelievable and we said, man, you ought to go to Hollywood. We go, forget about your degree and all that. We'll tell you how to live your life. Go out to Hollywood. I go, you could get a gig for movies and soundtracks. God was unbelievable. But he'd say, what are you guys going to do if this music thing don't work out for y'all? He goes, I'm getting my degree in whatever he was getting his degree in. We said, well, I don't know, man. We don't have a plan B. This is what we do. Well, I mean, what if it don't work out? I go, well, fuck, I don't know. And so anyway, ran into the guy. This is before I started working with Stevie. Ran into the guy like in 1997, 98. And he was driving a school bus for Fort Worth School District. I go, what happened to your degree? He said, oh, I don't know. That didn't all work out. And he goes, he goes, he goes, you've done pretty good, right? And I go, yeah, life's been good. You know, it was Storyville. I mean, it was actually past Storyville, Archangel. It was Storyville, tail into Storyville, Stevie, Archangel, Storyville. Goes,
yeah.
Well, he goes, well, what? And he goes, what are you going to do now? He goes, I was playing with Kenny is what it was. He goes, what if this don't work out? I'm going, John, I go, man. It was just a funny story because, you know, the other one was, I was with my son in his first day of youth association baseball, a little kid.
Yeah.
And he had this coach and they said, you know, Joe's dad's in the music business. And the guy said, yeah. He goes, you in the music business? He goes, what do you do? I said, I play drums. He said, you got one of them CDs? I go, well, I'm working on one. He goes, that's good. He goes, you finish that up, you get that thing out, you might go somewhere if you get one of them CDs. And he goes, all right, boys, let's hit the field. And I was like, I love these stories. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh
my God. What kind of music did Greasy Wheels play? Was it original stuff, or were you guys playing covers?
No, it was original. They were actually the first band in that whole Cosmic Cowboy. Michael Murphy, Jerry Jeff Walker, Rusty Weir.
Yeah.
That whole period in Austin. It was wild. It was original music, but it had conga drums and percussion, violin, mandolin, electric guitar, bass, drums, piano, and a brother and sister lead singer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like hippie. It was like hippie rock, kind of almost Grateful Dead, hippie rock, jazzy, bluegrass. I don't know what you call it, but they were actually the first band that actually got a deal. They had a deal on London Records. They were one of the first. They were the first to get signed out of that whole contingent that came later and kind of gave Austin that progressive country, rhinestone, hillbilly cowboy, deal.
Yeah. Man, what an ensemble to get dropped into for your first professional real gig like that.
No, I know they did a major record deal, and I just went and played what they said. Here, play this, and they went, "We want you." And yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
Wow.
I'll give up all my odd jobs, and had a whole plethora of odd jobs, and failing out in school, going, "What am I doing?" I go, I don't know what I'm doing. Well, now I'm a professional musician. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So you're playing with Greasy Wheel and living in Austin, making friends. When does that come to an end?
It came to an end when I finally went out to see my roommate's band, which was the Cobras, and had this guy, Denny Freeman, God love him, just passed. Denny Freeman and Stevie Vaughan were the guitar players in this band. And I got up and helped them out for a few songs when their drummer had overslept. And a couple of days later, Stevie came by the place. I said, we started talking about music. And I said, you know what, whatever you do, I'd like to work with you. I don't care what we do, where we do it, how we do it, when we do it, what it means. I don't care anything about it other than I'd just like to do it.
Had you ever seen him before that gig, around town or anything?
No,
not at all.
No.
Wow.
No, in fact, I walked in the week before I sat in, is the truth of it. And I looked at him, and he was just playing rhythm guitar, kind of like I see you do on videos, right? Just playing something. I remember I went, God, there's something about this guy.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the guy that everybody came to know, but I went, something's going on. And then I went out the next week, and that's when I sat in, and I could feel it. The whole thing was great. Denny was awesome. I mean, it was a really great ensemble. And I don't know, when it all came about, and at some point in time, there's more story to that. But so he said, "Hey, you want to be in my band?" And I went, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I didn't know
How'd
anything.
you end up living with Joe?
Huh?
How'd you meet Joe? How'd you end up living there?
Well, Joe came and lived with me.
Oh, okay.
See, he was old. He was almost 3 years older than me, but I watched him when I was a kid playing in bands around Corpus.
Okay.
And the interesting thing is that there was a guy named Jim Tremere, and they were typically horn sections in whatever band they were working in. Jim knew Stevie from Dallas growing up as kids. Wow. So Jim had left Corpus, and he was actually playing in this band, Paul Ray and the Cobras, when that little idea that I had, which was let's move to Austin, we went back to play a gig in Corpus, and Joe just showed up from a tour. And I said, come on, join our band and come back to Austin. Well, he did. And soon that thing fell apart, and he got the gig with Paul Ray and the Cobras because Jim Tremere said, hey, I want to leave this band, and you'd be better for him anyway. Why don't you play sax in this band? And so that's how that happened. And then Joe was looking for a place to live. And I said, well, why don't you come over? I got 2 bedrooms. Come over. You can come hang out at my joint. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
how we became roommates. Is that clear? Is that clear enough? It's kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
yeah, it's very
yeah,
clear. So did you balance? When so when you see Steve, you sit in with the Cobras, and then you have that conversation with Stevie, and you want to just do whatever, make music with the guy. Do you balance Greasy Wheels and that at the same time while you kind of guys are starting to figure out what you want to do, or is it just all in right away?
it's all in right away.
Yeah,
I mean, Stevie said, he goes, you want Blake be in my band? I said, yes.
right.
And I did. And he said, okay. I said, well, I need to tell Greasy Wheels. I need to give them. He goes, no, it's like now. It's now. It's not like 2 weeks from now or a month from now. It's like now. You said you wanted to be in my band.
Right.
And I went, yes. So I went to
Wow.
Greasy Wheels. I said, man, I have this thing. I've got to do this. I said, it's just, it's funny because the leader, Cleve Hattersley, he wrote a book later and he called me up to ask me if he could quote me. He grabbed me by the shoulders and he said, look, he goes, we'll be okay. He goes, if you got to leave like this minute, he goes, but I'm telling you, you are making the biggest mistake of your life.
Of course he said that.
No, he did. He looked into my eyes and I went, shit, I don't know. He might be right. I don't know. I don't think so, but I don't know any of these things. And immediately went to a job that was actually paying me no money. There was like, I was like, wow, we're got to make this work. We're going to make this work. Something's going to give or it's going to.
Yeah, but I mean, it's amazing the leaps of faith that not just you, but that all musicians take, not just to be a musician, but then when you find something that is like, I got to be there, I got to do that, and for it to work, it doesn't always work out, but you still have to take the leap. Yeah.
You do. It requires a lot of faith and commitment and and then conscientiousness and hard work and all these other things, that are thrown around. But there's a big leap of faith that has to occur. You go, I think we can make it. I think we need to go there. I need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, had Stevie already started to, assemble the band, or was it just you guys and we're going to reach out, has he already talked to the Cobras about leaving the Cobras, or was it just all happening right at the same time, I guess?
Well, no, the little bit longer story there was that Lou Ann Barton, who was kind of like a, step right up and let's do it right now kind of person. Gone to him and said, you know what, you look bored in this band. She goes, I want to put together a band. You need to play guitar and I'm going to sing. And we had W.C. Clark on bass and we get Mike Hinder and Freddie Farrow to play drums and go, come on. And basically he's like, okay. And so they formed a band called Triple Threat Review. Mm-hmm. That band kind of started dissolving almost instantly because like everybody was a chief in that deal. And it kind of fell apart, which kind of then turned into like just Lou Ann and Stevie. And that kind of became a different band. This was all in weeks. Yeah. And then there was problems with Freddie Farrow, the drummer. That became a personal nature and a bunch of different stuff. And then they both came to me and Sue said, you want to be in our band? You want to be in my band? You want to play with me? And I went, I do. Yeah. He said, good. Let's start like right now. Yeah. And that's picking up the other part of the story.
Wow. All right. So once that starts, I mean, how many gigs really a week were there around that time in Austin?
1, 2, maybe. Yeah. But we would go down to San Marcos, Texas, and we got a gig like in Dallas. We'd go to Stubbs Barbecue in Lubbock. That's where the real Stubbs Barbecue, where he was. Mm. And so we kind of cobbled together enough work that kind of started to get rent and utilities paid. Mm. So it was actually viable just barely. Great. Roof, clothing, food, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And so when it starts to pick up and you guys start to do little trips, how much time passes before, W.C. Clark kind of splits and then Lou Ann splits and all that? Is it I'm never clear like how long a period of time that is.
Oh, I'll tell you. So I started working with Stevie, joined Double Trouble, that really became solidified like August late July of '78 from Triple Threat. And
Uh-huh.
basically, when all these people left, Lou Ann said, well, I'm going to get my friend Johnny Reno and Jack Newhouse, right, respectively, sax and bass, bring them down from Fort Worth, which where she was from. Right. Freddie's still here, you and me, Stevie. Now it's double trouble,
Right.
you and me. So that actually by September 10th is when I started working in the band, replacing Freddie. But the conversation that Stevie and I had when he came over to the apartment that day, and I told him that I wanted to work with him, is like I was listening to Donny Hathaway, and the live record was one of his favorite records. We started talking about Stevie Wonder and Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock. And he said, you like all those people? You're hip to them? I said, yeah, that's kind of what I was into before I got to Austin. He said, man, so it was like, I was like, he was blown away and surprised that I like Stevie Wonder, and, Jimi Hendrix. And so, right. but to the band, he said, man, I like to do a Hendrix tune. And we did Little Wing, and the rest of the band was like, we don't do that shit. We're a blues band. Lou Ann was a big protester. Jack Newhouse, Johnny Reno went, man, we play the blues. We're like, well, me and Stevie, I think really the deal was there, honestly, was the understanding that we just play what we feel like playing. Right. And that's what band we are. Yeah. But there was a big protest for playing Jimi Hendrix songs, and we don't do Stevie Wonder tunes. We do Jimmy Reed and, Eddie Taylor. We do, Buddy Guy. We do. And it's like, no. The funny story about all this with Stevie was that day he came to the apartment. I only found this story out about 2 years ago. Was that Joe Sublette went and opened the door, and Stevie was there. He said, what's going on? He said, come out here. I want to ask you something. He's asked Joe. He said, has he ever played blues? And Joe said, no, he's never been in a blues band. He's playing funk and jazz and all this other stuff. He said, and Stevie said, that's good. He goes, that's good. He said, it is? He went, yeah, why is that good? He said, because he didn't have a bunch of shit in his head about how this is supposed to be like that, and that's got to be like this, and this can't be this way and that way, all that stuff. And so, I mean, all this started making sense when Tommy got in the band, right? Because Johnny Reno quit, Lou Ann, we parted ways. Jack was really disinterested in it. And then Tommy came along. I was like, here's 3 people who are ready for anything that comes down the pike. In our world, anything. And that's when it really became cool. Yeah. We were 3 people on the same page of everything.
Yeah.
And that's when things really started changing.
Had you ever met Tommy before or seen him around?
Well, no, I knew about Tommy, of course, but we went to do a show in Houston, and he showed up. And he wanted to know if he could sit in. And I thought, there's a legendary Tommy Shannon, man. Johnny, all this stuff. And I'm now actually meeting this guy. And he was cool as hell. I loved him. And he got up and he just played. It was like magical. Yeah. And I thought, man, sounds just awesome. And he was a little bit drunk. And after the show, he said, you need me in your band. He goes, I need to be in this band, and you need me in this band. He goes, I gotta be in this band. And we're like, Stevie's like, okay, well, then we're going back to Austin. And this is really funny because everybody was already kind of doing too much partying, Stevie being one of them. But Stevie says, I think he was drunk. Well, I go, yeah, he looked kind of drunk to me, And Stevie says, I don't know, man. And Cutter Brandenburg, who was our road manager, said, you know what? He goes, you guys sounded great. He goes, he needs to be in this. He should be in the band. And wow. Stevie said, I don't know, man. I think he might have like a drinking and drug problem. Well, I mean, I was like, wow, that's an interesting statement coming, from, it's like the classic, that old deal about the pot calling the kettle black. It's like,
sure. Yeah.
I go, oh man. Anyway, so, you know what, we made that change. And when he got in the band, it was like, you know what, we were all like, it was like we were all on the line together, and everybody's like, you know what, this is where it really seems to start.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, I'm fascinated by like the little process stuff. So like, okay, when Tommy comes back to Austin, I guess, with you guys, and you make the change. Is there a bunch of rehearsal? Do you go like in the shed immediately, or is it just gig after gig? When do Stevie tunes start becoming a thing as opposed to all covers? How quickly did it become like, you know, a serious thing?
Well, Stevie had some songs, stuff like Pride and Joy and I'm Crying and Dirty Pool were things that were already written.
Right, like
As
stuff
far
you
as,
can hear on the in the beginning record with Jackie and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But Tommy, you know, being in the band, it's like he just showed up and we just started playing. I mean,
Mhm.
it's amazing. I mean, even it's, I listened to the records, you know, I go, you know, a lot of that we walked in and said, let's just start doing something. I mean, we'd go in and Texas Flood was the only record that we had like all the songs that went on the record when
Uh-huh.
we went in to do what we wasn't even going to be a record.
Right.
Um, it's amazing how casual and spontaneous our approach was to playing. Seriously. I mean, it wasn't like there was seriousness about the execution, but it's like, let's play and see what happens. Tommy joined in the band. I think we rehearsed a couple of times and we were just doing gigs,
Yeah.
winging it and making shit up. And, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, seems so irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, but I could, you know, that feeling when when you find the right ensemble, and you know, even before things like outwardly start to happen, as far as like success or whatever things happen, you already kind of feel like successful when you've reached this you know level of cohesion with some guys. It's a magical feeling. So I mean, you guys had to know you had hit on the right combination.
Oh, you know what, Josh? That's really, you know, I'm glad that you brought that up because people say like, well, when did you know you were successful? I mean, like, you know, the success was then.
Yeah.
You know, you're doing something every day. You go, God, this is great. There's something special, and you don't need to know anything else.
Yep.
Now, you certainly can wish that, like, well, maybe we won't be poor our whole life, right?
Right.
You
Right.
know, there's those kind of like, well, maybe you know, maybe when my car finally breaks the last time, maybe I could at some point get another car that runs and these kinds
Yeah.
of things, you know.
Right.
And then you've got your dreams like everybody does. But the thing that was that I think everybody knew was like what we had was like, you know what, we'd already made it.
Yeah.
That was
Right.
our success. We'd already made it. The rest of it, whatever came, would be just gravy. You know, and we would
How
work for it.
Yeah, and you did work for it. Did it feel quick to you guys once things started to pick up? Was it all just like a blur, like when Montreux happens and then Texas Flood recording and all that stuff?
That's pretty quick. I mean,
Yeah.
the transition. You know, I saw a great comment about bankruptcy,
Mm.
and I thought, you know what? If you actually couch this in a certain saying that's like in the Bible, it's interesting. It says, "How do you go bankrupt?" It's like gradually, then suddenly.
Yeah.
And I thought about on the success and the overnight success scale. It's like you work at something for years, and maybe unbeknownst, you know, the universe is somewhat conspiring to things are being put in place until all of a sudden there's something starts tipping in your favor. And then you have the overnight success where a whole bunch of stuff gets thrown your way. And that's like, can you handle all that at the pace that it's occurring?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, you know, I mean, that was, I could sense that something was going on when someone said, hey, Mick Jagger really likes you guys. We went to New York and we did that show, which was so weird, you know, playing that kind of deal. And you go, yeah, but something's stirring somewhere, you know?
Yeah.
And then the mantra thing and all these different things that, you know, you couldn't make them up. You couldn't strategize, and they just kind of fell in place. That one thing led to another, and it was really amazing opportunity type stuff.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like really in a different place. And it's like, can you deal with this?
Yeah.
And you'll have to learn a whole lot of stuff. And you learn a lot of it the wrong way. You don't learn it. The whole trial and error thing kicks in, and you make some really instinctual good decisions and some really bad business decisions. And, you know, the whole lot of it, you know, until nothing. You just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm curious from a guitar player perspective, listening to tapes of you guys bootleg stuff of Triple Threat, and then stuff with Jackie before Tommy, and then stuff with Tommy leading up to Texas Flood, and then after Texas Flood. Was it obvious to you guys? I hear like, man, Stevie 6 month by 6 month was like exploding, like these giant new levels every 6 months. Was it obvious to you guys then how much he was growing? Because I hear it like crazy.
Well, it's almost like that the bridge never alters. You like the bridge too. It just keeps materializing, because if you go from a 5-piece and you go, now it's a 4-piece, and now it's a 3-piece, and now it's a 3-piece going from a 4-piece. Like now, this was an interesting thing that came up in the Texas Flood book, was when Lou Ann left the band, our agent called and said, well, what are y'all going to do about a singer? And Stevie said, well, I guess I'm the singer tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Which he hadn't been the primary singer. So, but here's the thing. This was a fascinating thing about Stevie. There was never any kind of a strange mechanism in him that said, maybe you can't do that tomorrow. Or maybe, because he would do wild shit with the guitar. That whole thing about playing behind his back, where I said, the first time I saw him do it, I go, where'd that come from? He said, I don't know. It just kind of came to me. I thought I'd give it a try. And he did it flawlessly. Not like, well, I better practice that first because I might screw it up. He just would do stuff. And it's not arrogance, cockiness, or any of that stuff. It's just like, he's just like, I'm going to go do that. So the guitar thing you're talking about is like, Lou Ann leaves one day, right? And the next night we play, and there's something different about his guitar playing. So I got to kind of fill in and do something while I'm singing. So he's just kind of like morphed to this slightly different style than he was the day before. Yeah. And you go, so you talk about 6-month periods as an example. It's like, a lot of stuff was like, well, I got rhythm and solo and singing. I got to figure out how to kind of combine all that stuff. So I kind of keep it all going on.
Yeah.
The only chording instrument, the guy who's now singing and playing the chording instrument. And things just started changing like quickly.
Yeah. Again, as a kid, it was I'm just mind blown. But as an adult and someone who's put in countless of hours and effort into playing the guitar, I can now, in retrospect, look back and see not just, of course, the magic and the gift, but also the amount of hours. Like just how much time he must have been playing guitar, and how much you guys in general must have been playing to have such quick growth over that period of time. Yeah.
Well, he was, working with him was, in a weird way, it was absolutely inspirational, nothing more certain, and then kind of be frustrating because he was like, if you ever watched a chameleon, that's going through a landscape and it changes from yellow, green to brown to, he could just change like that I go, how do you do that? How do you, it's not like I got an idea and I'm going to go practice it for 9 hours and then see if I can pull it off. He just start doing stuff and you go, hang on, man, you're like, okay, come on. So it's kind of like, come on, this is where we're going. And that's the way he was just, enchanted genius. It's like something would come to him and then he could just go do it.
Wow.
And you go, well, can you do that too? Can you come along? It's like, sometimes no, not right away. And that's the frustrating part, but it was great because he was always encouraging. He was really the best guy in the scene. Somebody asked me, they said, are you guys really, how do you feel like you guys are like playing with Stevie? And they actually asked me, so are you guys really like good enough to play with him?
Said, who asked you that?
I said, huh?
Who asked you that?
One of our old, deepest, most private, best friends. I said, no, probably not. But I go, but we care about him. We all love each other the most. I said, the rest of it, I said, I've never seen him in a situation where when he got in it, he wasn't the guy that just outshined everybody.
Right.
That no matter what Stevie did, he's like all of a sudden he's like out ahead. You're like, oh, well, who is that guy that can play with him and be just the right guy for him? It's
right.
I go, I don't know who that is. I know that we all love each other and we all have each other's backs. I think that's at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about. And hopefully we make really great music and everybody likes doing it together is what the call is. And,
Wow.
but he was challenging because he was always forever available. And then he'd throw you these curves. You go, wow, boy, that's heavy,
Wow.
kind of like a pitcher who throws this wild ball and you go, okay, wait a minute. I've never seen him throw that pitch before, but wait, my job's to catch that ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Catch it well,
Yeah. Well, I mean, it kept you on your toes, I'm sure, and made you grow faster as a musician as well. I mean, just being all in that environment.
Yeah, no, it did. I was, listening to the recorded music, and I go, one of the things that, thinking just like the passing of my dear friend Denny Freeman, regrets that you might have would be like, you always take some things, you can end up taking them for granted, like they're always available and they're always here until they're not.
Right.
And then you go, you know what? Yeah, I look at some of that stuff. It's all in forms like life right now. Like live gratefully and take this moment seriously and live in it, because you never know when what you think is here and available all of a sudden is not, and you wish you'd done more and something better with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, as you guys exploded then, after the gradual, build and then the explosion and things get, hectic and you're crazy and all that's going on. When did let's see, what's the best way to put it? When does the shift happen? Because we know this, shift between the van and the bus in your ass to the bus and, the higher level of work and feeling, like you've got some money coming in and all that. Did it change anything between the three of you guys, or was it always the same?
Oh, it's always was the same. I mean, we have our struggles and our bumps because we had a lot of responsibility. We had a big piece of machinery going on.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of people, and Stevie was somebody, and I laud him for this, in responsibility to those around him. Treated me the same way, and everybody, as there was a lot of structural things that needed to be considered that a lot of people didn't do so in the music industry. It's like, I need you right now, and then, see you later. I'll get somebody else. But we had a family. There's a lot of responsibility in how you actually took that, through the year, took it down the road, so to speak, was a big responsibility, big financial responsibility. So, we had different views on how to achieve that. And of course we had the real practical stuff to deal with. And of course, the thing of the day is we're always trying to make music.
Yeah.
And there was a lot. I mean, we did a lot in a few short years, and like the amount of shows that we did, records, and all the stuff that a really a healthy career will ask of you or want to demand that you pay attention to.
Yeah.
And it kind of pulled us apart, not as individuals together, but pulled everybody apart singularly in like our health and, the stuff with drinking and drugs. It's like, man, we have so much going on. We're trying to keep up with ourselves. And, so finally that machinery did come to a grinding halt at one point, as everybody mostly knows.
Yeah.
And so we regrouped and got back on a fresh page. And,
so Reese came in, obviously, I guess, I don't know if it was the height of the party or whatever, but somewhere around there. Had you ever played with Reese beforehand? Because I know he was playing with Jerry Jeff and stuff, so maybe with, the Greasy Wheels, Double Bills or something, who knows?
No, I've heard about him and I liked his playing, and he was down the road. I mean, we were tired, right? There was two things that were going on. We were kind of exhausted, the trio thing, and we were kind of like not being good to ourselves. And we were kind of thinking like, maybe we could use a new kind of energy and a different kind of way to frame this experience. And he crossed our mind, and I actually talked to Joe Sublette, and just, Reese is playing with Delbert just down the street from where you guys are, the studio. And so basically I went down there and got him, brought them back to the studio. He said, you want to come do some, I think I got on the phone first, and it wasn't cell phones. Got on the phone and said, hey, you want to come back here and come? And he's like, yeah. And I didn't know him.
Yeah.
It was like a cold call and a cold call event for him to come back to the studio. I mean, I think he actually came back, and we were waiting on like dope and booze or something, and we didn't do anything. And he's like, is this how you guys make records? Like, I thought you guys wanted me to play on your record, you know? You know how he is, Reese.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't remember what we did, but then all of a sudden the next day we just sat and cut stuff like Soul to Soul, Say What. It was like, here's an idea, boom, and we just did it. A lot of this stuff was very impromptu, but we did all that, and it was like, wow, that sounds good, man. He's great. And Stevie said, hey, you want to join our band? And he's like, I loved it because Reese says, how much?
I can hear that.
You know this. I'm saying this to you because you know this stuff. Reese is like, how much are you going to pay me?
Well, it's interesting for Reese coming into your guys' situation because he's coming, he had done a number of like touring gigs as a paid sideman. He was like a seasoned cat, you know what I mean? So it must have been interesting kind of coming into a band like that who was an established thing.
God, this is like top secret shit, right? I mean, seriously, you're not talking. No, Reese says, you ask him about this. I mean, you ask him, he's like, how much? And Stevie basically offered him like a cut. And I was like, what? What the fuck? What the fuck? He just got here, I mean, I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
I'm going, well, that's kind of how Stevie is. I mean, I got a cut, he's a good guy. He's a good dude. There's no, like, I have a great moment to leave all you guys behind and jump the ship and go find, he was like, I said, yeah, well, that's kind of how it works around here. So he came aboard, and we're all part of the same team, and everybody's, shoulder to shoulder. I go, all right, cool. And away, down the road we went.
Man. Yeah. I mean, so obviously that was reaching towards the peak of the partying and the craziness. And we all know that story and everything. So after that, after Stevie cleans up and you guys get back together, was it as great as it seems outwardly? Like, I just see you guys smiling like insanely those last couple of years. And there's an interview that I've seen of you and Stevie where the interviewer asks, what's the best thing that could happen? And both you guys say, just keep going. And it really seems that way like you guys seemed so fucking happy.
Oh God. Well, yeah. It was funny. So there's that period where we do the live record, Superstition. And then the very first thing back where we're all back together, we're on the good path.
Right.
Is to make a video with that track. And we were listening to the track going, hearkening back to the period, but now it's a whole different time. It was like, wow, this is really bizarre. And that was just one item. But, we're on this new path, and yeah, you know what? It was great. Just wake up in the morning and everybody's healthy, and we go, wow, we have a chance here. It's not like maybe death any moment from that way of living. Right. So now, you know what? We could actually keep going.
Yeah.
And we did. And things got really clear. And we had a whole lot of stuff that we needed to pay attention to, not only in music going forward, but old business stuff. And so we cleaned up a lot of different things, and we were really on a good foot. We had everything sorted out. It was a great place to be, making great music, everybody showing up, everybody in the moment, taken care of our stuff. And now it's like the future's bright.
Yeah. I always noticed that even just as a kid looking at pictures, after 87 and just seeing the smile, it seemed like everybody was so happy, because not that you didn't appreciate what was going on before, the success and all the gigs and the amazing things. But then after it, it's like, man, you realize this is the greatest thing in the world that you guys are doing. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's just that thing. Who was I was listening. I can't remember who was talking about this. Was it Bill Burr again? Yeah, talking, about back at the beginning when you're doing your thing and that's in hand
Mm,
and times are simple and you really like enjoy that. Later on when things get big and there's so many things to tend to and
yeah,
you go, then it actually wants to rob some of that joy from the whole process.
yeah,
And that's where the challenge comes in. Can you really approach that every moment to say, no, you know what? I'm fresh and I've got my energy towards that because I mean, on a day by day basis, we come to your town, Josh, and you show up and you go, hell, I paid like $30 to see you guys. I don't care what the hell you've been through for the last 6, 8 months. I want to
right,
see you guys be awesome. That's
yeah,
the ask. And so, you, me, anybody, our responsibility is like, can you can you get clear on all that and not let the other stuff override you and overwhelm you so much that you can't get to that point? And then you start
yeah,
like not liking what you do,
yeah,
even though you ought to be grateful and thankful and you know it's
yeah. Well, I'm sure. So, yeah, it gave you the change there, the clean, the getting clean on it. It gave you guys perspective on it all again from a new angle. Yeah.
oh well, yeah, that
So,
was when we did that the tour that we did, us and Jeff Beck together, it was like, wow, man, this is kind of like one of those things. I remember when I stepped on stage at Madison Square Garden, with a guy that I first jammed with, that I was telling you back when I was a kid.
mm,
Remember his sister came in with a Rolling Stone and she said, look at this. Skinner plays the Garden. It was a page, right?
uh,
That was the deal, right? You play the Garden. And I looked at that and went, I'm going to do that someday. And everybody had a big laugh over it. But when I stepped on stage and went, God dang, I'm actually here.
yeah,
As a little kid, I just said, I'm going to do that someday, but there's these like great things that you get to entertain in your fantasies and whatever. But, and that period, I go, wow, you know what? Now that all that got real. And now here we are and we're healthy. The band sounds great. We're doing all this neat stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, it was all over.
yeah,
You go, wow, okay,
yeah.
live. It's
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, it's it's hard to even. It's nothing for me to say about it. It's just I can't imagine what you guys went through. When that at the moment, and because I mean, you guys are probably looking at your tour books and we're looking at the next 6 months and the next. I know how it works. So when it just goes like that, I can't imagine.
I think literally that one of those things where like everything happened,
Mm,
right? It's like you go, well, what does all of it mean? What does
yeah,
life mean?
yeah,
There was all that stuff, right? Where you're looking at going, oh, we're going to China, we're going to Russia, we're going to do a full scale tour of South America. We're
mm,
and towards the business, we're going to be doing arenas, and we got all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, there's just nothing. You go, but wait a minute, what else kind of went away? And it's
yeah,
it's it's one of those things that's just two dimensional. I've spent decades kind of sorting through it because there's always some new thing. I go, there's that. And it's all good now.
yeah.
It's all good
Yeah.
because it is just life. And but there was interesting questions to be asked and certain things that said you should want to get answers to this for yourself.
Mm.
So yeah, no, it's been a fascinating life. Yeah.
It's a man. Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I'm curious. This is a random question about muso life on the road, just as a working musician. Do you look back and I don't know how good your memory is, but are you one of those guys who, you know, if you see a video of you guys, in a random Wednesday night in Des Moines, Iowa, or something like that, do you remember something about that day? Do you remember catering or the hotel? Is that does that never leave you? Because I'm that way. I can never forget.
Oh, I might. Every single one of them? No, but there's definitely things that that I remember about something. Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
God, I remember that Wichita, Kansas, where for some reason we got like it was like industrial chicken noodle soup poured out of those big cans, like they'd have like in maybe a school cafeteria, and then they
Yeah.
dumped them into a bigger pot, and then just put a ladle, and that was dinner. And it was like, go, oh, I remember that. I remember that. And then there was the thunderstorm right after that. Lightning almost struck the building, and
Wow.
and then we did the show, and then we left.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny, like those. I don't remember the gigs as much as I remember that stuff, the catering, the ride on the bus, what some joke somebody told, or what we were watching on TV. All that shit.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know. Well, there's no telling. See, that's fascinating thing. I think is no telling what any of us might remember or never remember about any of it, right? Other
Yeah.
than what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I just love being on the road so much. It's like all those things are the gold to me. Like that, all those moments. It's such a great, the camaraderie of your family of musicians, and you're getting to go do something you love. So all that stuff that happens during the day is like it's magical shit.
You know who Dan Crenshaw is? He's a Republican congressman from Houston.
I
He
know
was
who
talking.
he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he was talking about Navy SEALs. He was a Navy SEAL, but he said, yeah, you don't join up and then think, oh, well, I wonder if I'll go ahead and become one. He goes, you kind of already are one, and if you have those questions, you won't be one. And I'm
Wow.
like, you know what? That sounds like the life of a musician.
Yeah, it does.
And I
Yeah.
thought about it. Somebody came to a show in Houston one time, and they said, God, the show was just wonderful. And they said, well, what do you do now? And I go, I'm getting on that bus and I'm driving overnight to the next. They go, you get on that bus? I go, what do you mean? They go, y'all all get on that bus? I went, yeah, we get on there where they got bunks. We sleep on there. And they went, God, that's disgusting. And I went, I don't know, maybe it is, right?
Yeah.
But you think about like, where did you eat? Where did you pick up that nap? Where did you get caught on that that breakdown on the road? What flight did you miss, and what airport was that? And
Yep.
all these things, you just go, you know what? There's all that stuff, because then we play music.
Yep. Yep.
So it doesn't. And I go, it kind of looks like that's like, no, it's not going to be determined by like, no, I'm not going to ride in that kind of thing. I'm not staying in a hotel like that. Oh, I'm not going to eat that kind of food. I'm not going to. It's like, no, you'll do all that shit and work so you can go play music.
Yep. 100%. 100%. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
Well, apparently we haven't yet.
Wow.
Anyway.
Yeah, right now we have. Yeah. Oh man. Okay, this one's random, but
No.
I'm very curious. Was he as loud as it seems? Because I never experienced it. And for you guys, was it gradual? Did it kept getting louder, or was it not as loud as everyone thinks it was?
No, it was really fucking loud. You kidding?
Really fucking.
But you know what it really was is that even in he was such a strong player
Mm-hmm.
that even at a volume, given any amp, any guitar in his hands, you go, that's not a big rig. When he played, the strength of it sounded mighty.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, well, it's kind of loud. It's elusive in that it's not loud, but it's strong, and it's powerful. That but then there was just the fact of assembling Dumbles and Marshalls and shit, and it was just like, this is just way too fucking loud. It really, it's just loud. Yeah.
Would you guys say that? Was there ribbing about that?
Yeah. I say, God damn, it's fucking loud. He goes, well, it's a guitar band. It's like, that's not really a great answer. That's not, I mean, but I can see where this is headed.
Yeah.
So like we play Madison Square Garden, like for one, I had like S4s that Claire Brothers provided me. Those were my drum monitors and wedges underneath the S4s, just so I could, for vocals and drums.
Yeah.
And anything else I might need, but definitely not any more guitar.
Yeah. Well, there's that video of sound check where you guys are already on stage and Stevie comes walking out in that leopard coat or whatever.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You guys are playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys are playing without him, and it sounds kind of normal. And he hits standby and just goes chick chick. and it's like you can't even hear you guys anymore from that camera that's close to the stage. And it was like I was like, oh, that he's really, really fucking loud.
Yeah, well, so you get it. That's a good rep of that whole deal. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did Reese ever get pissed off? Right? I don't know how Reese deals. He's played with nothing but loud fucking guitar players his whole life. It's crazy.
Especially after the Stevie experience, I don't know. Reese used to kind of stay pissed off, really. It's supposed to get pissed off.
Yeah, that's funny.
God love him. Reese, you going to be watching this?
Probably.
No, but yeah, I get it. No, he was because Reese had come from a lot of really high caliber professional situations.
Yeah.
Where you go, well, we got singers and we got, so there was some kind of like decorum or whatever you might call it. And then you enter Double Trouble. It's like, man, this is fucking all hell can break loose over here, and tends to.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing, man. Well, I'm curious about your drumming because one thing I've found, I mean, not to pat you on the back too much, but man, you have grown tremendously from when Double Trouble ended to where you are now as a player. It's kind of unbelievable, actually. Just doing the Reese record with you, I hear you play things I never would have heard you play 20 years ago. And obviously some of that's just the way we are as musicians. We're always growing. But man, how have you kept yourself motivated to grow as much as you have as a player? Because you really have grown a ton since then.
That's a really fair, good question. It's actually been, in my case, goals that have been put up in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've never really been the guy that just says, well, I'll just wake up today, have my breakfast, and then go practice drums for like 9 hours because that's what I do. Right. I've not been that guy. But, things like, the Archangels, which was my idea, that the formation of that band. But I go, this is a whole different thing. So it was a challenge and it was a goal. Yeah. At the point in time that, John McDermott called me for what became the Experience Hendrix thing, Mitch Mitchell was like my hero. And I went, wow, you know what? I want to get all that vocabulary. So it was like, in that particular case, I want to understand the vocabulary. And I'd come from, in a school band from doing a rudimental type approach. And before I met Stevie, I mean, the guys that I was into, like Mike Clark with the Headhunters and Billy Cobham, and I mean, the list went on and on, Michael Walden, all these different things, Harvey Mason, the Creed Taylor records, all this different stuff. So this was kind of like in my thing. And I kind of started accessing some of that stuff that nobody ever knew me for to begin with. Yeah. And then the application of like, hey, you want to be the drummer for Experience Hendrix? And there was, the Storyville thing, which was totally that, and the Archangels was a creative thing. And these were all kind of goals and challenges to say, this is not, shuffles and things of that nature backing somebody. And that was a conscious effort, like in Double Trouble. It's like, this guy's going to do all this stuff. And so what he needs is somebody to be solid behind him, and this is not Mitch Mitchell answer to Jimi Hendrix. This is something, all these things kind of opened up, and they asked different questions with different type goals. And I needed that. And so I kind of spent time trying to rise to that occasion.
You can hear it, man, which is inspiring for me because that's pretty much been my main motivating factor my whole life. I know what keeps me going is, I love all the work and all the stuff, but I just want to be better guitar player tomorrow than today. So like whenever I see people who are, I don't mean you're old, but older than me, who continue to grow and growing without stopping, it lets me know it's possible. Like you don't have to stop, and that I pay attention to that stuff. It's important to me. It's very inspiring to me.
I think that's the big deal, Josh. Because there's a certain element in not giving up and not quitting and keeping on that speaks. It's almost like this hidden factor that's hiding right in plain sight. Yeah. That if you don't quit, I mean, it sounds dumb. You don't quit, you keep going.
I know it's so cliche, but if you just keep moving forward, it takes care of itself.
There's a bunch of stuff that just does, and that's not to be, not to take anything for granted, but
Yeah.
you know, we talk about the snowball going down the hill and all that shit. But it's really true. But it's like, well, how do you keep that up? I'll tell you. And this year, the previous year of not playing, I thought, well, is this like the handwriting on the wall? I've been a professional for 45 years. We go,
Right.
65 years old, but I got back into doing some playing. I did 2 records this summer, the Sue Foley and the Mike Flanagan record, and I loved it. I went, God, I love it. Just making music, and started doing a little playing here and there. And I thought, yeah, you know, but when I see this,
Yeah.
when I fell on my dirt bike a month ago and I broke my collarbone, and I go, now you're going to do nothing. When I was laying on the ground trying to get up, the first thing I thought was like, I can't play Sunday night. Shit. Like, it came right and went, well, there you go. You know?
Yeah.
So
I can't imagine. That would have been my first thought too. You know, if I ever fell out of a tree and broke my arm, it would always be, you know, like, how am I going to play guitar? You know, the same way an athlete immediately goes, when can I play again? You know, like, yeah.
No. Yeah.
Crazy, man. Well, dude, this has been like an incredibly gratifying conversation for me. Like, I just so enjoyable to listen to your stories. Like I said, man, you're a hero. So to call you a friend is like, means a lot to me.
Oh.
And man, I hope we get to make some music together soon.
Hey, let's do that. How about that? We'll mark that up and
man.
see how we can make that happen.
Well, I have a studio and it's free. So if you're here, we'll do that. Or fuck it, I just need to come to Austin and do some recording. We'll get a bass player. You know.
Where are you right now? Where is this exactly?
I'm in Encino, California.
Encino. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Check here up. I'll show you. Oh, that's blurry. There's my kit. There's my
Check you out, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, Gretsch.
Yeah. That's like the Ferroni 70s Gretsch kit.
The Ferroni 70 stop sign.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, you mentioned Mike Clark. Man, how badass is that guy?
Oh God, you had him. You did something. I haven't seen that. What?
I just did a conversation with him about the blues, and I already kind of knew this about him, but I was struck by his not just amount of knowledge about blues, but how much he respected it and loved it, which I'm always paying attention to that with you know, more jazz based or other schooled musicians. You know how some guys are, they look down on the blues. And he was like, no, he wants to talk about Sonny Freeman and Fred Belo, and he knew his shit, you know?
No, you know what? I didn't know that about him. We did PASIC one time, the Percussive Arts Seminar International Conference, and I was one of the drum set clinicians. Yeah. And I went, you guys really want me to get up there? It was Billy Cobham, Mike Clark. I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck am I going to do? But I met Mike Clark was right before I was. And I went, oh my God, it's like one of my heroes. But I chatted with him. He said, yeah, I used to play with Albert Collins. I went, you did?
Yep. Yeah, he was talking about playing with Albert, playing with Otis Rush.
I know.
Like, guys would come into town and he'd back them up. Yeah.
No, I know. I was blown away. I was so glad that I did what I did, because he was before me. I'm like, guys, doing all this great shit, and it was getting clinical. Yeah. And thank God I went. You know, I don't know how I fit in with like Billy Cobham and Tony Royster Jr. and Mike Clark, and I thought I hired some guys to be a band. We were the only guy. I was the only guy that actually played music. So this is kind of what this deal is, but this is how it fits in a song, which was great, because I don't know. I need some leverage in this group of people. So,
man, when you were coming up working on your shuffle, who were the guys you were listening to, and did you know who they were, or was it just a mystery listening to the record?
Somewhat of a mystery, but Sonny Freeman was one of them. Man, I was listening to Albert Collins, like the cool sound of Albert Collins.
Yeah.
Can't remember the guy's name.
I can't.
I had to look it up. I went, I never know the guy's name. This is horrible, but mainly you listen to, there always was a guitar player, singer, artist, and then whoever the drummer was.
Yeah.
Sometimes you had to look deep and you might not even find it out unless somebody knew. And it was Freddie Below. I mean, these guys, I mean, there was key people. Earl
Did Stevie
Phillips,
know? Like
Jimmy
when
Reed,
Stevie would
huh?
talk to you about shuffles and stuff, did Stevie know some of those guys' names and stuff, the Fred Belos and things like that?
He sometimes did, but he always came up with some interesting pieces of music, like in 45s. This is where it got rich, where between like Denny,
Mm-hmm.
Paul Ray, Stevie, Jimmy, there was all this Mike Buck and Keith Ferguson. There was like this unbelievable depth of richness in
Yeah.
records that like nobody'd ever even heard. And then they go, check this out. You go, who is that? And what is that? And when was that? And, and you're just listening. The thing about the shuffle, since you brought that up, is like I started hearing, I go, God, there's like limitless ways to play it. And you go, back in the days, like, nah, you just do a shuffle. They're like, da, 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 da. And then you go on to, your funk beat and then your jazz beat. And it's like,
Yeah.
go, God, this thing is like, so I got intrigued by how nuanced and different they all were. And then, I was in the middle of all of it. And,
Yeah. What about like the Texas, there's such a Texas guitar playery thing, but there's kind of a Texas drummer thing as well in that scene. Were you guys sharing information and were you cognizant of the fact that you were coming up with something Texas, in that vernacular?
I don't think so. I think we're like a bunch of monkeys hanging out in the jungle, and you go, and there's one monkey over there doing something. You go, hey man, that seems to be working good for him. It's like maybe I should start doing that too. I mean, seriously,
Okay. Okay. So I mean, like when you would hear Freddie
monkey.
Farrow or Frank Beard or something, you would listen, and hear what they were doing, but it wasn't so much like this is the Texas sound or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it. It's like that whole thing. It's like, well, how was your childhood where you grew up? Brooklyn versus Tucson. I was like, I don't know. I got up and had breakfast and went to school. It's like, what did you, It's like you look at that stuff and I like would hear Freddie, and that was going to came from Earl Phillips, Jimmy Reed, and you go, well, that's where he got that from, and that's kind of cool. Let me see if I ought to check that out. And then you go, well, check out those records, and then all of a sudden everybody's kind of checking out the same few things that a couple of people kind of led everybody into, and it becomes that Texas thing, and
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really don't have an explanation for it other than that possibly being it. But you look at people, whether I show up in Austin and I see all this stuff going on with Jimmy, Stevie, Denny Freeman, and you're going, I like what they're doing. What is that? Well, you ever heard of Jimmy Reed? No, not yet. Well, that's kind of that kind of thing. And then you're kind of in the midst of it and you go, everybody's looking at these handful of people that are like really thought to be like the guys, and go, I think I want to kind of do what the guys are doing, the guy. And then everybody's kind of just going down that path, like monkey see, monkey do,
Yeah.
And then it becomes the Texas thing.
Yeah.
And I go, I guess, sure, that's fine by me,
Wow. Man.
I asked Joe Ely one time, I said, Joe, Buddy Holly, there's you. I go, there's all these guys, Butch Hancock, Jimmy Dale Gilmer, all these guys like the panhandle like songwriters. I go, why is that? He goes, fuck, because there ain't nothing else to do up there. He goes, so you write songs. I go, maybe so, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
Because we didn't have anything else to do. Somebody comes along like Buddy Holly, you go, maybe I should try writing songs.
It's amazing though how a scene just coagulates or whatever. I mean, and just becomes a scene of like-minded people. I mean, the odds that blues would just take over in Austin, Texas. I mean, it's just a random occurrence, really. I mean,
kind of. I think have to, the fact that people came down here. I mean, Austin has always been a mecca for a lot of different things regarding the humanities, and I think more so in earlier days. And so, no telling who might end up here. But I think that, Clifford Antone had a big part in opening his club, because then all these people who to me were just national treasures, really, you'd actually see them and you go, my God, I've heard about them in legend, and I maybe heard them on record, and now they're actually here in the flesh. When you see like Muddy Waters and Jimmy Reed and Eddie Taylor and Buddy Guy and Junior Wells, and Albert King and Freddie BB King and all them, and they're on stage. You go, Jesus Christ, this is like real.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
real in your experience.
Yeah.
So, but the material was already there. It's kind of like, we got a lot of kindling and a lot of wood here. And then somebody came along and said, I can help start a fire. Not trying to do that specifically, but it flares up and then there you go,
All right. Well,
yeah.
I'll let you leave it with this question. Where do you, at the stage you're at right now, do you have specific goals still that you want to reach as a musician? Where do you see yourself going?
Wow. You know what? That's actually a tough question for me because there was a whole number of things that as time went on, I went, I want to do that. I always wanted to do that. And I've actually done all of them other than under the umbrella of just be a better drummer. Right. I'll tell you what, my next goal is hopefully to get this broken side of my body kind of healed up so I can actually just sit down and start playing drums again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually thought about putting out a vocal record where I'm the lead singer.
You should do it, man.
I know. I don't know.
Well, if you want to do it, I'm in. I'll play for free. You can use my studio.
All right, good, cool. Let's mark that down.
Mark it down. Well, dude, thank you for doing this, man. For taking the time out of your day, and greatly enjoyable. Like it was amazing.
I had a good time. Thanks for having me.
You got it, man.
I hope to see you in person soon.
Likewise. I'm actually flying to Texas on Friday to play in Dallas at the Dallas Guitar Show Festival.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. It'll be my first gig in front of people in over a year. It'll be weird.
Really? No kidding. Well, good luck on that one.
Yeah, but I'm vaccinated. I'm feeling good.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Well, good.
All right, my friend.
I'll either be sitting here or I'll be going into surgery. I won't know that till tomorrow, but good luck in Dallas.
Thank you, my friend. All right, well, let's talk soon, man.
All right, buddy. Good talking to you, Josh. See you later. Thanks.
All right, Chris. Thanks. Okay.